I started talking about ADHD on this channel in 2021, and I wanted to share with everyone the biggest change that I have made in my ADHD journey, and it has to do more with health than in mental health. So today I'm going to be talking about my journey discovering my MTHFR gene mutation, going gluten-free, and avoiding folic acid, and how that has impacted me so much more than any other thing I've ever tried for ADHD. Getting the right supplements to help me detox all the things that I'm putting into my body, and why it's so important for you to get tested to see if you have the MTHFR gene and how you can do it for less than $100. So there's going to be a lot to this video. This is a long time coming. I have been wanting to make this video for almost a year. I have been collecting information. I have created a resource guide for you guys. It is available over here and you can grab it down below in the links. But I'm going to be kind of walking through a framework that I created that has helped me so much over the last year understand why my body is different, why this impacts my ADHD and my autism, why I have to make some food changes, and I have honestly been feeling the best I've ever felt in my entire life. And I think that there is just not a lot of videos and content on this topic around the ADHD community specifically. I feel like it's more, I see it more in the health community. But I think my goal is to bridge those two, the mental health and the health, in this video because there's so much to learn. But I also don't want to overcomplicate or over-explain it. So I'm going to be very, very specific on what I think you need to know and what has really stuck out to me in the last year. So the biggest thing I want to start with is that my ADHD symptoms have gotten a lot better after going gluten-free. And the main reason why I think this is because I stopped consuming something called folic acid. I'm going to be walking through what that is and why that affects me personally with my genetics. But I also want to talk about something I created called the METHYL Framework. These are 6 different things to learn about methylation, the MTHFR gene, and how our bodies process toxins, basically. So I'll start first with markers, which includes genetic and hormone and blood testing that you need to do to kind of understand if you have anything that's, wrong with you health-wise that may even be impacting your ADHD. Then I'm going to be talking about educating you a little bit on what this means and some of the resources I found, including some of my favorite books. Then we're going to be moving into triggers, things that you should avoid if you have these conditions or if you have ADHD. Like, what are the things I have removed from my lifestyle and from my diet? Then we're going to be moving into health, which includes things like supplements and kind of detox processes and kind of lifestyle choices. Then finally, we're going to end in the last 2, which is your diet. So this is the foods that I have added to my diet in the last year. And then finally, links to other conditions. A lot of these are comorbid with each other. And so I wanted to talk about some of the things that I have found in my research. So I have, again, the resource guide is below, so if there's a lot of information here, I just wanted to let you know to get started that there is a lot more written. So if you want it in writing, much better to go to my guide. But let's just get started with my story and how this all works together. So as you guys know, I've been on a health and mental health journey the last couple of years, and last summer I actually was just going on Instagram, on TikTok, and I found this video. And basically they said, did you know that you can check to see if you have gene mutations if you use your Ancestry DNA kit? And I was like, wait a second, I did an Ancestry DNA kit in 2014. It's actually one of the first videos on this channel. And then I walked through, figured out how I can download my raw DNA, which all you have to do is you go to the settings and then you go to your data and then you just click request your DNA, your raw DNA, and they will send it to you in an email within the hour. You can download that as a text file and then you can upload it to this website called geneticgenie.org. The nice thing about Genetic Genie is it does not keep your data, so it's very safe. You can use whatever platform you've gotten your DNA from, whether it's 23andMe or whatever. I will talk a little bit about this maybe in another video about conditional testing. I'm specifically going to be doing more medical genetic testing, which tests a lot more than just the basic ones that you can buy online. But Ancestry is the one I recommend. You can get on Amazon. It's really usually under $100. And it comes within about 6 weeks. So you're going to download your raw DNA, upload to Genetic Genie, and then you're going to get something that looks like this. This is going to tell you if you have any genetic mutations. I did not know what this means. For me personally, these days I would just put this into ChatGPT and say, what does this mean? If you're confused and don't really understand how to read it, I have gotten really good at reading it over the last year because I understand what all these different things mean. But you can see the one in red for me was the homozygous for MTHFR, which a lot of people call it the mother effer, or it's basically really bad. And I have the homozygous one, which is worse. So there's two different things that you can be. You can be either heterozygous, which means you have one mutation, or both mutations, which is the homozygous. Unfortunately, both my parents, I have tested them as well, I have this as well, so it's very genetic. And it also can lead to a lot of diagnosis. For example, for myself, I was recently diagnosed as autistic. Most autistic people have some sort of MTHFR mutation. And for me, because I'm homozygous, that is more commonly seen in autistic people. I'm just being honest, like that is a thing that I learned, and that kind of led me down that autistic path, is learning about my gene mutations. So what does this mean? What is the MTHFR gene? Well, basically there's something called methylation. I'm gonna read it so that you know exactly what it is. So methylation is like your body's switchboard. It turns important processes on and off, like making energy, clearing out toxins, building brain chemicals like dopamine, and even turning genes up or down. If methylation isn't working properly, it's like switches getting stuck. You feel foggy, tired, anxious, or inflamed, and your body can't keep up. So basically, it's like a computer system for your body. And what it means is that your body's somewhat impaired. And so there are ways to improve your body based off of the food that you eat, the things that you put in your body, the supplements you take, and the things that you avoid taking. So these are kind of the things I want to talk about today and what I have learned over the last year. So going back into methylation, it's how your body detoxes, it makes neurotransmitters and processes nutrients. So the MTHFR gene, by having a mutation, it basically means that your body struggles to do those things. So for example, it struggles to detox things out of your body. So if you eat something or absorb something through your skin that has some toxins, it takes a lot longer for it to get out. So you need to improve the processes to do that and make sure that you're not putting a lot of toxins in your body. One of the major things that I want to talk about in this video is probably the most important thing that you should not put in your body, and that is something called folic acid. You may have heard of folic acid because they ask women to take it during pregnancy, which I don't understand personally. Synthetic folic acid. Let's talk about the difference between folic acid, methylfolate, and folate. So folic acid is a synthetic version of folate that was created in the early 1990s because they realized that neural tube defects like spina bifida could be prevented if women got enough vitamin B9, which was folate, before and during pregnancy. And a lot of people don't get enough folate, especially if you live in low-income areas and you don't eat enough vegetables. So in 1998, the US government actually made it a law and mandatory to add synthetic folic acid to things like white bread, pasta, cereal, and flour. This is specific to the United States. That's not the same in Europe, which is why when a lot of people go to Europe and they eat pasta, it's not fortified, and so you don't get as sick. What they didn't realize, and what the US is still trying to understand, is 30 to 40% of the United States population cannot absorb folic acid. I get so upset about this. And a lot of people don't know that they can't. And if you have the MTHFR gene, that means that your body is really struggling to digest folic acid. This is stuff that if you ever see the word fortified, if you ever see folic acid on any label, that is something that you should not be ingesting if you have the MTHFR gene. It's also not really good for people who don't have the MTHFR, and honestly, I think that the adding it has way more negative effects than not having it. Which is why I think they should get rid of adding folic acid to foods. I really do. I think it causes more harm than good, and I just think it's an outdated thing that we've done so much research on, and I just don't think that foods need to have synthetic folic acid. So what is the difference between synthetic folic acid, folate, and methylfolate? So folate is the natural form that's found in things like leafy greens, liver, and legumes. So that's something that you do need. But there's another version, which is actually the best type that you actually do need to take if you have the MTHFR, and that is called methylfolate, or 5-MTHF, which is the active form that your body can use. It is the best version for MTHFR. And I actually have a little spray that I have that I actually got it, I think on the TikTok shop or on Amazon or something. It's like less than 20 bucks. So if you find out that you have this gene mutation, I recommend adding that into your diet plan. I learned a lot about this by joining Facebook groups like the MTHFR group on Facebook and by reading the book Dirty Genes by Dr. Ben Lynch. The book talks about the MTHFR. It's one of the only books, honestly, that really digs into it, as well as some other genes that I've also found out I have mutations on, like COMT, MTHFR. Like there's a lot of them that are, it goes way more into depth, and I don't want to get into this video just because there's so much to it, but I think the MTHFR is the one that everyone needs to know the most about because to me it's the one that affects all the processes in the body. So let's move into triggers, which is really the biggest thing that I think a lot of people need to know, and what is the thing I've been working on the most this year is to rid myself of, and that is specifically folic acid. But what I've also learned is that most often gluten is also one of the biggest things. So if you ever find a product that has gluten, most likely it has folic acid in it. Most things, again, that are fortified, cereals, pasta, all of that, especially in the United States, has folic acid added, which is why in July I decided to go gluten-free. The main reason was I just didn't want to have to read the labels, and I also knew that gluten was not good for me in general, as someone who now knows my body struggles to detox. My brother has had his celiac and he's been gluten-free since he was in high school, so I was already sort of aware of the lifestyle, and I just committed. I said I want my body to heal, so I'm going to do a year gluten-free. It's been almost a year, literally. I'm like 11 months in. I wanted to talk a little bit about how that's changed my life because I feel like a lot of people are very intimidated by the idea of going gluten-free, and what has changed and what hasn't. So the two main reasons I wanted to go gluten-free was number one, the MTHFR, but I also, number two, wanted to see if it would help my skin. If you didn't know, I've been on a really long skincare journey. It's still not done, but it's gotten so much better. A lot of it is because of the work I've done this year, but I wanted to see if, you know, it would help me in any way. And I'm gonna be honest, I really think it has helped my ADHD most specifically. I have never in my life felt more calm, less anxious, and less brain foggy than when I went gluten-free. I feel like I've been doing a lot of things though, so that's the other thing I'm trying to figure out is like, is it all of the things I've done in the last year, or is it going gluten-free? But in my head and in my heart, I know that removing folic acid from my body and going gluten-free has positively affected my mental health. It has positively affected my memory, my processing, my overwhelm. I just am at this point where I just am not experiencing as many ADHD symptoms as I used to be, which is shocking to me. I just feel like I feel almost like my body is working the way it should. And I really believe it's because I went gluten-free. In addition to that, I've also really focused on removing all sorts of toxins from my house. Plastics, things in my makeup and skincare. I have removed fragrance. I have removed essential oils. Like I've removed anything that could be triggering to my skin or to my body. I've changed out my literally pots and pans. I've changed out water filters. I have changed out so many things, and I could maybe make a list somewhere of the things that I've changed. I'll put that in the guide before this video goes live. But that to me is another thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is all of the things in their home that could be harming them as well. So I've really focused this year on figuring out what are easy changes I can make that may help my body process toxins better. Because that's the thing is, there's so many more toxins in our world than there used to be, and I think that's why a lot more people are having issues. A lot of people are realizing that their body does not process toxins well, and so by removing them, they actually feel a lot better. This is both food and just our surroundings, our environments, our air quality. Everything has an impact on our body, and there's a reason why there's a lot more people that are struggling with their health, and I think it's because of a lot of the toxins in the world. So just becoming a little bit more aware of what you are consuming and what you're eating, and that is a huge part of my process this year. So then you're like, okay, if I remove all that from my diet and I get rid of all the toxins, what should I be adding to my diet, or what should I be doing in addition? So the main things that you want to do is test some of your levels. So that kind of goes back to some of your blood work. I've been working with a naturopath. She's been awesome. A lot of stuff around hormones. We also did some blood testing. Turns out I'm super low on vitamin D, which actually also showed up in my genetic testing, that I have something called the VDR, which means that my body struggles to take in vitamin D. So I've been supplementing that. The main one that you really want to focus on is vitamin B12, which is methylated. So make sure it's methylated. It's not just like raw B12. Like, look for the word methylated, and methylfolate. So those are the two. You don't want to overdose on B12, so make sure that you're looking into that. One of the things that is affected by MTHFR is something called homocysteine levels. So if you're getting blood work done, I highly recommend looking into that. And I actually have it in my guide of all the different things you could potentially look for in your blood work to see where you're at. Because what I have found is I had never had a blood test in my entire life, guys. I had never been pricked for blood until last year. So I literally hadn't even looked into my own like blood or genetics or hormones to see what was wrong, even though I had a ton of issues for the last couple of years. Some other things I would highly recommend looking into: magnesium, vitamin D, and then trace minerals, making sure you're getting enough minerals, things like iodine, like making sure that you're absorbing the things that you need, because your body might not be able to take it. You need more than maybe the average person so that your body's able to utilize them. Another thing I wanted to also talk about that's kind of an important one, and one thing that really impacted my journey, was birth control. I was on birth control for over a decade, and I decided to go off of it after reading a lot about, the effects of birth control, and my body exploded. It was so bad. I think I'll show you guys a photo here. This was like at the absolute worst. My back was completely outbroken with acne, and that was honestly the trigger that started this whole process for me of figuring out what the heck is wrong with me. So one thing a lot of people don't understand about birth control is that it actually depletes a lot of your nutrients that you need. Things like folate, B12, magnesium, and zinc. So if you have the MTHFR mutation, your body already struggles to process folate, and so birth control can make it a lot worse, including mood, energy, anxiety, and even long-term detox, which is what happened to me. So I learned that my body doesn't detox well. I was on birth control for 12 years, and then all of a sudden, like, things happened when I got off of it. My body was all triggered, and it's taken literally now, I've been off birth control almost 3 years, and my body's still trying to get back to its normal levels, and now hopefully at a better level because I am supplementing. So that's another reason why I think I'm at the best place in my health that I've been in a long time, is because my body's finally, I don't feel like I'm drained of my nutrients. If you look at photos of me from 5 to 10 years ago, it just feels like I have nothing. Like I'm so pale. It feels like my body just isn't absorbing the nutrients it needs, and it's because I was on hormonal birth control. So if you are going on birth control or consider birth control, please get genetic testing first to see if you have this mutation, because if you have this gene mutation, you should not go on birth control. Okay, so sorry again, another tangent. I wanted to also talk about some of the things that you can work on to improve your methylation and your detox. So a few include things like a vibration plate. I've talked about that in one of my previous videos. Standing on a vibration plate helps with lymphatic massage. And lymphatic drainage. I just got my first lymphatic massage this week, and it was really nice. So that kind of helps you, again, your body detox. Red light therapy, super helpful for this. I bought a red light. I have it in my makeup area, so every morning I get some red light on me. And then saunas. Those are the main, probably 3 things that I would look for: lymphatic drainage, saunas, and red light therapy. All 3 of those things really help. I also would not recommend doing ice plunges. It's been found that women actually struggle with that because it activates a lot of things, fight or flight, and it just kind of actually makes us more anxious. So I actually recommend not doing an ice plunge or a cold plunge or ice bath. I just recommend doing saunas. And I've been looking into potentially doing a sauna membership. So those are kind of the things that I would look into if you're wanting to learn more about your health. But let's move a little bit into diet, because I feel like, I mentioned going gluten-free, but also what are the things that you should be eating more of? One of the things I recommend eating more of is beets. Beets is a really great thing to have a lot of the things that you need. I hadn't really been into beets, but now I drink beet juice. I take the little beet chews. That's something that I've added. Obviously, drinking enough water is really important. I've been really focused on water lately. Hydration, because again, my body struggles to detox, so making sure that you get enough in you is really important. Also things like, if you can tolerate it, veggies and more protein. I've been taking a lot of different additives to like my oatmeal, which is a gluten-free oatmeal. Things like MSM powder for my skin. I've been doing like lots of different things. And I'll maybe do another video on food, and I'll put it in the guide as well. But I just wanted to mention that food is such an important part of this process, and something that you don't always think about, especially if you've never been removing things from your diet before and doing any type of removal. A lot of people just eat whatever they want, and I feel like that was me for most of my life, and now I've become very, very hesitant when it comes to my meals and figuring out what I can actually eat that's going to improve my mental health and my physical health. So I have a list of all the things in my guide that you can learn more about for that. Finally, I wanted to talk about the links between being MTHFR and what that can mean for some comorbidities, additional genes that may be mutated. And for me, it's kind of the trifecta, which was recently diagnosed autistic ADHD, but also I'm looking into EDS, which is Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, being hypermobile. That's something else that a lot of people have found is a comorbidity of a lot of these things, being MTHFR. But I think one of the things I've learned is that everything can be attributed back to this. This is kind of like the reason that you have so many issues, and it can cause like a chain effect with different conditions. So a lot of people that have unexplained issues, or they've just had a lot of health issues, should look into testing for this gene, because it's going to help you understand your body a lot more. You may take this genetic test and not have the MTHFR. You might be normal, but you might have some other genes, and I want to quickly run through them for you. So they call these the big 7, and I'm just gonna walk through quickly what each of them is. And this is what's talked about in the book Dirty Genes. Okay, the first one is COMT. Again, gonna read. So COMT breaks down dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine, playing a role in mood regulation and stress response. So a lot of people that have, depression issues, a lot of ADHD issues, tend to have a COMT hormone mutation. So just look into that when you're doing your hormone testing. PEMT, which is involved in the production of, I can't even say this, phosphatidylcholine, important for cell membrane integrity and liver health. So if you're having any liver issues, look for that gene. The NOS3, which is for heart issues, produces nitric oxide, which is crucial for vascular health and blood flow. One thing I forgot to mention is you should not be taking nitrous oxide if you have the MTHFR. So if you're ever getting going under, try not to do that, because that can really affect as well. It's part of my list of things to avoid in my guide. There's the GST or the GPX, which is detoxification, the detoxification enzymes that break down the removal of toxins. MAOA, this is a big one, breaks down neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, affecting mood and behavior. So that's where people that are angry a lot tend to have this gene mutation. DAO, which is histamine sensitivity. This is a big one too. Histamine is a big topic I've been learning a lot about. If you have a gene mutation, it might be harder for you to break down histamine, so it prevents histamine intolerance. And then obviously MTHFR. Some other ones that I also have is VDR, which is the vitamin D receptors. Things like CBS, which is how much you can actually take in sulfur. That's one thing I learned. Things like broccoli have sulfur in them, so you might be sulfur intolerant, which can also affect histamine levels. So there's just so much to learn, and I have created this guide because I have been screenshotting, and you should see my Google Photos folder full of MTHFR stuff, guys. It's crazy. I have gone down the rabbit holes, I've gone up the rabbit holes. I have literally broken this down so much that I have become basically an expert at this point, and I just feel like I still am halfway to where I even need to be in terms of what all this is about. I'm still 1 year in, I'm still learning. There's so much to health that I didn't realize, especially for people who are trying to learn it so that they can help themselves. But I wanted to kind of just mention that because a lot of people that watch my channel are struggling with mental health disorders, and I feel like one of the things that I want to mention around this is I do believe that the reason that a lot of people have stronger issues with autism, ADHD, neurodivergence in general, is because of some of the detox issues in our body, inflammation, and our diet. Because I have personally seen that by working on all these things, my health and mental health has improved. Obviously, I'm never going to be quote unquote normal or neurotypical because I have these gene mutations which affect everything in my body. But I feel like I can make small changes that improve my quality of life. And I think for a lot of people, they are just unaware of this connection. And my goal with this video, my #1 goal, is I want to for you to understand that you can test yourself for under $100 on your own, getting a basic DNA test, find out if you have these gene mutations by uploading it to Genetic Genie, and from there, work with a doctor, work with AI, work with whatever to figure out a better system for you. If you have ADHD, I highly recommend looking into this because it might be an underlying reason. I'm not saying every person with ADHD has the MTHFR, but they have found a lot of data to pinpoint the fact that it's probably some sort of gene mutation that can impact it. And so I think really looking into your genetics is a really important part that a lot of people just skip over when it comes to ADHD. So I just wanted to mention that because this is a really, really, really important topic to me. It's something that I really, really think about a lot. And it's something that I have become really passionate about. And I wanted to share my passion with you because it impacts me so much. So anyways, I hope that this video is helpful. If you have any questions, leave them below. Otherwise, I highly recommend getting my guide because it's going to have a lot of information. There's Facebook groups in there to join, Reddit groups. There are supplement suggestions. There's so much in there. I have spent literally hours and hours creating this. So if you want to go check it out, you can here and below. And make sure to follow my Substack for more. I'm going to list a lot more in that as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. If this gets a lot of views or if I get a lot of questions, I might do a follow-up video, but I just wanted to walk through specifically my journey and why I think it's important. So anyways, thank you guys so much and I'll talk to you soon.